Support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Juninho wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Jonny, Dana and Matt. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro match day chatter in a podcast. And Michael Carrick's handsome set piece specialist Reds, finally I've been waiting for years to say that, are currently 7th in the championship, courtesy of a Matt Clark and Aaron Ramsey own goal at Cardiff yesterday. But guys, it's been a bit of an up and down week, to be honest. A 5-0 drubbing off Stoke, and then we'd go and beat Cardiff at the weekend. But what was your one key takeout? Dana, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to completely ignore Stoke for now, and I'm going to say that I'm very excited about our midfield. The midfield of Hackney, Morris, and then Finnazar's further forward. Really, really excited about it. I think in the brief viewing that I saw yesterday before I went to the Orange Pip, 3 of them were brilliant. Hackney and Morris in particular, very, very good. And they've actually made us not miss Jonny Howson for once. And I know we'll probably get into Aidan Morris in particular in a little bit more depth later on. But yeah, very excited about that midfield. I think it's looking very good indeed.
And then Matt, what was your key takeout?
Matt Clark's going to win the Golden Boot. He's probably going to win Player of the Year. He might even win the Ballon d'Or. But no, my key takeout is that I think heading into the international break, our season finally has just settled down a bit. I feel like it's been just typical Boro. Just when you think we'd had a steady start, it's all just kind of gone all over the place with Wand at Derby and then Portsmouth. So I think and even Stoke as well, we'll have to acknowledge it. But I think having that result yesterday, it was steady, it was calm. I think things have just settled. We've kind of gotten a result we've maybe deserved or should have gotten sooner. And we can kind of now go into the international break and the second block of games just a little bit calmer, a little bit more reassured, with things looking a little bit better than they probably would have done had we not won yesterday.
Yeah, and I'll probably go with it's going to it's taking time, but I can see where we're going. I think when we're going to chat about Aidan Morris, but I was sat this morning on Wirescan and I was like looking at Boro and just looking at what changes have we made at the start of the season from previous season, and has there been any impact? And I can definitely see some improvements in certain areas, definitely some step changes to some aspects of how we play and how we're currently getting the ball back. But overall, I'm okay with the first phase. We can probably chat about it a little bit more later on. But overall, I would say I'm relatively quite happy. I always find it so funny that last year that we were saying about Boro being set piece specialists or being the top 6 or something for set pieces. And now, we're the second highest for corners in the championship, and we've scored from 2 corners in back-to-back games, courtesy of a beautiful Matt Clark header. So, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it for what it's worth, and I'm just trying to completely ignore Stoke, but we'll come on to it now anyway. Because, Matt, how would you assess the week? One game, well, of course, plenty of changes. It didn't feel like a final game, but it was. 5-0 off Stoke, and then we go and beat Cardiff. But how would you assess the week?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I think Stoke is such a strange game because it wasn't a 5-0, and I think the only reason as to why I think there was maybe a bit of a overreaction to that game was because of the scoreline itself. There was a lot of changes, and that's to be expected. Early round of the Cup, not going to pretend to say I wasn't that bothered, albeit I was there. And I was fuming when I left the ground initially. But I thought first half against Stoke, Boro were absolutely fine, and we should have been ahead. It was the same old similar traits really as to what had sort of been happening up till that point of the season. Coburn missed a gilt edge 1-on-1 that would have put us up 1-0, could have changed the game completely. As it happens, we ended up going in 1-0 down, I think. And yeah, just when you think maybe we can get back into the game, it was just a mad 12-minute spell where we were just absolutely all over the place, and Stoke were stupidly clinical. So I think the scoreline maybe twists the perception of that game a little bit in the fact that it was just a defeat in the Cup. and it was to a fellow Championship side. We did make a lot of changes. It's not the end of the world, but I think just the game it followed, or the games it come after, and the scoreline just made it seem all that worse. But thankfully, yesterday we had exactly the sort of game I was hoping we would. I wasn't expecting or hoping for a blockbuster 4-0 Boro win where we blew them away. I just wanted us to have a steady, mistake-free, just a nice, calm day at the office, get a clean sheet, which I think we're overdue because of the errors we've made, put a few chances away, not miss a gazillion of them, and just have a nice, solid day at the office and come away with 3 points and without any drama. That's exactly what we did. So I think the result yesterday allows us to banish the Stoke game and forget that it ever even existed, which is good going into a 2-week break.
Yeah, you weren't pleased at all here on that game against Stoke. To be honest, the voice notes were something. I wish we had them recorded. But Dana, Michael Carrick said it was a one-off game on midweek against Stoke, and you can kind of argue with the team selection wasn't that much of importance either. With plenty of changes in a lot of young players playing for us. But was there any alarm bells ringing for you for that game against Stoke? Because I appreciate Matt alluded to it as well. That game state can, it's basically what happens in that. What happens in the game can really dictate and change things. If Coleman scores, that game state is completely different to what we went in a half time with. But was any alarm bells ringing for you at all? I appreciate that 12-minute spell was very clinical, of course, but any concerns?
Yeah, to be honest, there were. I can't sit here and kind of dress it up. Immediately after the game, I just thought, well, here we go again. This is Middlesbrough at their very best, or their very worst, shall we say, where we kind of, well, it's not even kind of, we're very, very profligate in front of goal. And at the back, it was almost like, the back end of last season where Boro did look like they were improving defensively. We looked like we added a bit of solidity, a little bit of calmness, composure to our game. That completely went out of the window against Stoke. It was a complete masterclass for them in how to finish. And that ball from Bocat, I think it was, for Kumas's goal was unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. And you think about Boro doing that, we don't. That's simply put, we don't do that. It was very uncomfortable to watch, to be honest. And I think it was compounded by the fact that we did have a lot of youngsters on the pitch who were enduring that experience more than enjoying it. And yeah, that Coleman chance could have changed the game completely. Although I will say that we were probably lucky to go into half-time only 1-0 down, because I feel like Stoke should have really added to their lead in that first half. But it was just another example of Boro just not taking their chances and being punished for it, essentially. And especially disappointing after the first round victory over Leeds, in which Boro were actually very effective and very efficient in front of goals. So, yeah, it was cringeworthy. I think if I wasn't on the radio after the game, I probably would have left after the fourth goal, because there's just nothing really left in the game there for Boro. And it just got away from us completely. And the thing is I mean, if this was a Premier League side that rocked up to the Riverside and put 5 past us, I can hold my hands up and be like, okay, fair enough. A bit like what Brighton did the season before last and beat us 5-1. I mean, at least we scored in that game. But this was Stoke. And I mean, I'm self-aware enough to know that Boro have been rotting in the Championship as well as Stoke for the past several seasons. But I think that's kind of the thing. Like, this was a Stoke side that also made 7 changes. We have to say that. And there was just, it was like, there was just such a big discrepancy there between the two sides. I just don't think it should have been the case. But yeah, really important, as Matt said, that the Cardiff game was a victory, because you do not want that Stoke game to fester into something bigger than a one-off or bigger than just that night. So really important that Boro bounced back from that, and they did that. So fair play to them.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you, actually, because you've both really alluded to it, but the win against Leeds, he is disappointed at all that it was kind of for nothing in the end, because of all the great play we did that night, the goals we scored, the performance, the excitement that you had afterwards, pretty much nothing. Just the bubble pop, like the bubble just burst, and nothing was worth it in the end. So how are you feeling after that? Was just kind of nothing in the end?
I look at cup games as one-off games, especially at this stage in the season, and I think a bit like last year, you can use cup games and help them build confidence around the squad. Use that for the league, which is the priority. And I know it's easy to say that now we've been beaten, but I think, early rounds of the Cup are just a case of letting fringe players have some minutes and just hopefully getting through. And for me, I think the Leeds game has proven what we can do against a side away from home who are going to leave spaces in behind, how good we can be on the transition against fairly expansive sides. So I think we can still take a lot of confidence from that game in terms of what we can do against sides like Leeds in the Championship itself. Obviously, Stoke's a difficult one because they always rock up at the Riverside and play like Barcelona anyway. And it has given me a little bit of concern because they are coming to the Riverside in a few weeks, I believe. So God knows what sort of team they'll rock up and play like that week. But I'm not too bothered. I feel like with the cup games, it's how you follow them up. And yeah, we're out of it now. It is what it is. Were we going to go on and win it? Probably not. The big thing for me was there was no hangover. And as we've alluded to, thankfully, after yesterday, it proven that there wasn't any hangover. Had we lost yesterday, or even drew, to be honest, it would have probably compounded what was already an indifferent, slightly underwhelming start to the season, or frustrating start to the season. It probably would have compounded it into being one that was actually really disappointing in the end. So to sort of just draw a line under that game, get the win we did yesterday, yeah, I'm not too bothered at all, really.
Yeah, probably me too, to be honest. I think at the time I was really happy that we beat Leeds and did a great performance. I felt like at that moment it was, okay, here we go. Here's the rocket. Like, we're going to go for it for this season. And then, yeah, it was pretty much a reality check, I would say, that the Stoke defeat. But overall, we made a lot of changes, a lot of young players coming in. I mean, Paul McCormick got injured in the first 30 seconds. So like really poor, like unfortunate for him. But it is what it is. It's done now. We don't have to think about the cup anymore, and we can solely focus on the league. And Matt, yesterday the game against Cardiff. Do you feel more confident now that we can go on the international break with the squad that we have and the performance is going to be okay? Because but I appreciate people don't have the context of what we were talking about in our group chat. But to elaborate, like, you're really disappointed. You were fuming. The voice notes definitely kind of alluded that you were a bit concerned about the performances in general. So to win against Cardiff, do you feel like your confidence is slowly coming back that we can actually do something in the league this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's been some freakish, crazy goals we've conceded thus far this season, and I know the majority of teams in the Championship could probably make an argument that, we could have come out the first 4 games with more points, this, that, and the other. But I genuinely feel like yesterday was the sort of performance and result that I think we've, I don't know if deserved's the right word, but we've warranted, we should have had by now. I know we obviously had Swansea on the opening day, which was quite similar in terms of, we defended our box really well. Although I think Swansea put us under a bit more pressure than what Cardiff did. But, we should have had more clean sheets thus far. We've not defended poorly. We've had moments of madness that have cost us dearly. So yesterday, I think, reassured me that we are not giving teams much. It's nothing that we didn't already know. It just wasn't reflected in the results. So the game yesterday just reassured me that, we are not giving teams many chances. We are deserving of clean sheets. We should have more. And we don't need 35,000 chances to score a goal, because yesterday we scored 2. Albeit another was a set piece. So goals from open play still aren't that prevalent at the moment. And the second was Aidan Morris's shot, which was going so far wide. It should not have gone as far wide as it was. When I first saw it going in, I thought that was bottom corner. And there was like a bit of there was a weird period of uncertainty where I was like, is it offside? Is it not? I don't know what was happening in that moment. But the way Morris peeled off, I thought he's got a goal. I think it would have been his first Boro goal. I don't think he scored in pre-season, but I was delighted for him. And then I saw the replay from behind the goal, and I was like, oh my God, he struck that so badly. It's not even hitting the target. It happens to hit Ramsey and diverts back. So still, we've not, a Boro player hasn't scored from open play yet. So that's still a bit of an issue. But for me, it's just reassured me that we are doing the right things. I think everything Carrick said in his interviews, he's absolutely spot on. We're doing the right things. We've been our own worst enemy at times. And I think if we can just continue doing what we're doing, cutting out the errors, not giving teams chances, and converting at the other end, then I think we'll be absolutely fine, and we'll only continue on a steady uphill trajectory this season.
Yeah, I think I probably need to give context that we actually have scored from open play in a cup game with the Leeds, who's all three of them were. But I mean, in the league, yeah, we haven't scored them. But in terms of my assessment of it as well, I thought that Cardiff were going to set up to defend, and I think the game state really mattered in that game because if they did score that first goal, I think it highlights how important the first goal is going to be for Boro this season. If they scored first, it was only going to be more and more difficult for Boro to break them down. They were there to defend. They were there to try and steal a point from the game. And they set up really narrow and made things really difficult for Boro in those early phases as we were starting to play through. But then what I do like about Boro's midfield, and it's very, very simple in football, really, when you play a bit more diagonal to your if a 4 or centre mid plays, and with an 8, one's a bit more further forward than the other, and vice versa, and you'll rotate as the game goes on. Very simple. Everyone does it. We've all done it in football. But it was really perfect in terms of how Boro were trying to play out from the back and then trying to play through the team. Finazaz was doing his normal thing of just trying to drift away from one of the defenders or midfielders to get himself in a little bit of space. And we were able to play out quite well at times. Yeah, we get caught every now and again, but for the most part, we broke the press really well. But I think it was a matter of time really in that first half. Although it was very low in terms of chances, I could definitely sense that there was more confidence coming from the group in that first half to say, okay, there will be a chance at some point, but at the time we were like, okay, we'll have to put it away because I don't think there'll be many chances in the game at all. And in that second half, when that first 5 minutes, they really went for it, Cardiff, and it was there, and it was purposely done to right, let's try and get a goal early doors and let's just sit on it for the last 30, 40 minutes and hopefully Boro can't break us down. And, when he was off the line from Aidan, and I was like, oh no, here we go again. They had a good couple of shots. And we scored at just such the right time because they were on top for the first time in the game. And it was a great header from Matt Clark, really, to get Boro on the way, to be honest, because one, we needed that. 2, it knocked the stuffing out of Cardiff, and 3, it's always great when your top scorer scores again. So for us, it was good for that part of it. But in terms of the overall performance, the second half and highlighting that first goal were really strong, really promising. I was happy with the overall second half performance. I think there was some really good individual displays yesterday. I thought Finazaz was excellent. I thought Hayden Hackney and Aidan Morris were brilliant in midfield, and they have been since the start of the season. Matt Clark again coming up trumps at the back. Him and Aidan were superb together at the back. And then when Elijah came on again, getting a little bit in the right areas, creating another chance, and assist for him as well yesterday. So there's a lot to be positive about. But at the time, if you were watching the game for that 90 minutes, you might have thought it wasn't the best of games. It wasn't like the highlight reel of Middlesbrough you used to. But we got the 3 points. We were confident in that second half. We were dominant when we scored the first goal. And that, for me, definitely gives me all of the confidence that going into the second phase of the season that we can really cause some damage in the league. But how important is that first goal going to be in every single Boro game this season? That is something that we probably have to keep an eye on, especially for us on the podcast as well. So we'll see how the teams react to it. But guys, I want to just quickly chat about Boro's top scorer, Matt Clark, to be honest, the goal scoring sensation, because if you said 12 months ago that Matt Clark would be the most fit centre back that we have, he's currently Boro's top scorer, and we're scoring from set pieces, you would have thought I was in La La Land. So, but how impressed have you guys been with Matt Clark? I know we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, but I just want to kind of come back to it because he just keeps getting better and better and better, right?
Yeah, I've mentioned it on a few pods now, just how good Matt Clark has been. And I feel like I broke a record, but in the best possible way, because the more that I say Matt Clark has been excellent, the happier I am, because he has been brilliant, like genuinely brilliant, off the back of an injury as well, and a really substantial, difficult, tricky injury to recover from. And it was a really lengthy one as well. So the fact that he came back last season and was good was a pleasant surprise. The fact that he has continued that this season, actually, really, we shouldn't be surprised, because obviously we played Portsmouth last week, and he played for Portsmouth, one of the clubs that he got Player of the Year at. And I was looking at their hashtag just to kind of scour and take in all of the post-match reaction. And a lot of them were mentioning Matt Clark and how good a defender he was for them and how he hasn't lost it and he's still top class. And a few of them said that if it wasn't for injuries, he would be a Premier League player and an established one. Obviously, we got him from Brighton on a permanent contract, so he was contracted to a Premier League club. But honestly, he's so good. His reading of the game is fantastic. He puts his head where it hurts. His distribution is fantastic. That long diagonal to the right-hand side in particular is brilliant. And I think it really shows the benefit of having a left-footed defender on that side because of that. But going back to his defensive work, just a really, really astute defender. He stands out quite a lot. He had a wobble against Stoke where he didn't deal with the ball. I think it was the second goal, maybe. Didn't deal with it well. But that's kind of just a tiny, tiny little blot on his copybook. He's just been really good for us this season, and long may it continue. You mentioned there, Jonny, like he's our fittest centre-back. You wouldn't have thought that. You really wouldn't have thought that. But thank God, because he's showing everyone why he picks up Player of the Year awards like Christmas cards. He's just a fantastic, fantastic defender. And credit to him, because recovering from that injury was really tough. Maintaining a decent level of performance is really testament to him, the work that he puts in and his quality. He's absolutely brilliant, Matt Clark. Really good.
Matt, do you echo that? I'm assuming, or do you want to add anything else to it? Because, I mean, that's such a glowing reference, isn't it?
I don't think I can top that, to be honest. I mean, he's just so consistent, so reliable, and just given the injury setback he had, I think there's just such a really feel-good factor around how well he's playing right now, and he's proving maybe a couple of doubters wrong. You know, when he got that injury, a lot of people might have thought, well, his Boro career might be petering out now because we had Fry, we had Lenihan, obviously. But he's come back in, he's established himself. Even going into the season, you know, we were sort of umming and ahhing. It might have been the back end of last season, we were umming and ahhing about Lenihan coming back in, and, you know, Rav's there as well. But Matt Clark has absolutely solidified himself as a must start in this team. And his all-round game's brilliant. You know, as you say, technically he's really good on the ball. His reading of the game's brilliant. I mean, he made a slide tackle yesterday against Cardiff, which was, I think they were breaking down the right, and he slid in perfectly timed tackle. He's seemingly in the way of every shot. It's like he just appears. I don't want to bash myself again, but he is like the defenders on pro clubs. Whenever my pro shoots, they're always there to block. But that's Matt Clark right there. And then just to see him get, you know, a couple of goals as well, it's just a really nice bonus for him. Because, you know, for a long time we have been a little bit frustrated as to how we haven't scored more from set pieces, given some of the defenders we've had. So to see him, you know, be well on his way now to the Golden Boots, fantastic. So, I hope he does become a Premier League player, and I hope it's with Boro. And if he keeps going the way he is, he'll be up there for probably another Player of the Season award. He's consistently absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I don't think I can add any more to that. But there's a player I do want to quickly touch on, I think, for while we can, and I appreciate people be waiting for this lowdown video of Neto Borges, but I did record one, and you know, had technical issues, so it is coming.
It got blocked. We got copyrighted.
It got copyrighted because I had too many clips of Neto Borges in there. So currently re-recording it, and it'll be out soon. But he made his debut yesterday, Matt, and I think that if you don't mention him, or you mention a player, especially like when they first started playing, I think they're doing an all right job and there's no complaints. So I don't know if you had any thoughts on Neto Borges' debut at all. I mean, I thought he played okay. I thought it was fine. There was nothing to worry about, and there's more to probably come from him, of course. But any thoughts, feelings, any opinions at all that came to mind when you watched him?
Yeah, well, it was better than Engel at Sheffield Wednesday, which is a good step in the you know, good starting point. But let's not talk about Engel, Jonny, because I know it's still a little bit painful for you. But I thought he was absolutely solid, and that's all you want to ask. That's all you ask for from a new signing. I mean, given the fact that he's come in, I think Carrick said he's had one training session, dropped straight into an away game in the Championship, albeit Cardiff or not. He's not gone up against Leeds or, you know, a top side with a really, really good wing on the right-hand side. But still, you know, it's a big ask for him. And I think it sums up the sort of character he is. I mean, I loved his initial interview. And I think he did one with Tees as well. He just comes across like such a level-headed, smart, open, just a really nice guy. Just there's something about him I really like, and I think a lot of that come through his performance yesterday. It was really calm, really solid. I wouldn't say we saw all that much offensively from him, but I wouldn't expect that on his debut. I think he did his defensive duties really, really well. A couple of times where maybe he got caught a little bit, a little bit up the pitch. I can't recall who it was on the right-hand side. It might have been Tanner who come on, but he got caught in behind a few times. But yeah, I think overall you can't ask for a much more concrete debut without getting too excited, too over the top. He will improve, he will get better, but all we would have asked for was a solid, drama-free debut from him, and that's exactly what we got. So intriguing to see if he keeps that shirt now, and if that might help Lucas Engel maybe raise his performances as well, because based off of that yesterday, he's going to have to.
I was going to say, where does Engel go from here? Because I think it was pretty unsurprising that he got dropped after the 45 minutes that he had against Portsmouth, which I actually think was probably on par with his 45 minutes against Sheffield Wednesday. It was really notably poor. But where does he go from here? Because for me, I think Bangura is probably more of the profile that I would like as a fan. And I know that I'm just a fan, so I'm not really that kind of important in this, I guess. But he's got that drive, hasn't he, Bangura? He's got that speed. He's very direct, very attack-minded. And we were talking about it the other day, Jonny, about Lucas Engel. It just seems like that player that we were told about at Silkeborg, the really attack-minded, forward-thinking, really high winger almost at fullback, is just not there. So, I mean, there could be a lot at play. Could be hasn't settled, hasn't acclimatized, homesick, could be personal issues. We don't know, but yeah, I'm kind of wondering where Lucas Engel goes from here. I think in the short to mid-term, he's probably the bench player, but then in January, did Boro move him on? I don't really know.
It depends, doesn't it, on Bangura's fitness, doesn't it? I think
does, yeah.
if Bangura's back in January time, then you think, okay, well, can we maybe get away with sending Lucas Engel out on loan or on a permanent deal? And in terms of him as well, when we did the initial lowdown on it, naturally there was a lot of excitement there because there was multiple reasons, really. The reaction we had from Silkeborg fans, looking at the underlying numbers that obviously you look at, but you also need the eye test on a player. And when I was watching the eye test, I was going, okay, that's an exciting fullback. He can get forward, he can whip a ball in the box, and has a lot of good attributes. And one big thing was he was actually probably better than what Ryan Giles was defensively at the time. We were thinking, okay, that's actually going to probably work, and it just never really materialized. And I think there's probably twofold in it. I think it's twofold for this, because one, have we allowed Lucas Engel to be an attacking fullback? I don't think we have. For most part, he's not allowed past the halfway line. So that's quite a difficult situation for him when he's not having to use his best attribute. Probably the second part of it is you are acclimatizing to a league. And then thirdly, where Boro play, we expose a left back a lot, where you're seeing it yesterday with Borges, you're seeing it with Ryan Giles, you've seen it with Luke Thomas when he was here, you're seeing it with Lucas Engel, and you see it with Bangura as well, and Hayden Coulson, if you want to throw Hayden Coulson in the mix as well. Every single left back that we've had has had the same defensive issue. So when is it about the left back, and is it actually about how Boro play? Because if you think about how Boro's left winger plays, he comes in central. So if a wing back and a right winger is still going to play, you've got a 2v1 on that on that left flank. So you're always going to get done because you're outmanned and outnumbered. And the recovery from Boro's winger on the left has to recover really quickly. But if they don't, you're exposed in that moment. So I think it's a few things at play. And I agree that Lucas Engel hasn't had the best of Boro careers, and I'll admit that. And I kind of said on the last podcast that I bring my rating down. But I do think there's a lot of context that's probably needed, because he's not the only left back that's currently failed in that position. There's been a lot of them. And the one big thing about Ryan Giles was Ryan Giles can't defend. And that was the thing repeated for the entire season, which I know he's not a strong point, but if every single left back we're bringing in has that same profile and not defending, is it actually a left back problem? But I don't know. Don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that. If not, then I will move on.
I was just going to say that the key difference, the really important difference with Giles is that, okay, you can maybe say he had his shortcomings defensively, but offensively, he was so good. He was probably the best creator in the Championship. That's
Agreed.
the type of player that we had. So to mitigate those defensive problems, we saw the opposite side of things, him being so uber effective going forward. That's where I think Engel falls down because, okay, he's not the best defensively, but he's also not the best offensively as well. So it's kind of that lack of, well, it's that balance in like almost a quite unhelpful way for him. That's why I'm disappointed in what we've seen from him, because I feel like I can take a defender or a left back in our system that isn't the strongest defensively, as long as they are very good in their offensive output. And unfortunately, with Engel, I just don't think he is. Like his crossing, you've mentioned his crossing is good. I just feel like it's not of note. Like I don't think any of his offensive attributes are of note, unfortunately. And yeah, maybe as well, like what I've kind of neglected to mention is that jump from the Danish league to the Championship. Maybe it's just been too big for Lucas Engel. Maybe the translation from the football there to the football in the Championship has just been too much. So I don't know. But yeah, I'm really sad for him because I just want him to be at success, but I don't really see where he goes from here. I feel like a lot of fans have kind of made their mind up on Lucas Engel that he's kind of not good enough, and it's not like an overreaction, it's a reaction to what we've seen, and I don't think it's necessarily unfair. I mean, it's harsh. Well, not harsh. It's harsh in the sense that it's a criticism, but I don't feel like it's like unfounded, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think probably to come back to answer your initial question, if he doesn't go alone, I would like to see him as a wide winger, or him and Bangura, because they were both originally left wingers and then moved back into a system which had a back three or a back five. So I'll just be intrigued to see if we were to ever utilise that. I mean, we are in need of a left-footed winger, someone who can stretch the game, not come inside. So maybe that could be a route for us until the end of the season. But anyway, just before we go to a break, a little bit of sad news as well. So, of course, if you haven't seen already, that former Leeds, Cardiff and Boro centre-back Sol Bamba was unfortunately passed away at the age of 39. Sol played for Boro over 20 times and had that iconic moment at Old Trafford with the penalty, of course. He'll be fondly remembered for his time at Boro, and our thoughts and feelings with Sol's family and friends at this time. Yes, the praise and place. The only place I like to give praise to a player, coach, and staff member. Dana's red hoodie, that is Boro Breakdown shirt behind him, and much, much more. Guys, praise and place time. Who are we going to put in this week? Who could it be? The Matt Clark praise and place show once again. I'll go first, and I'm going to say Finn Azaz because Finn Azaz has been excellent. He was yesterday. Really, really pleased with him, especially after like last week where he was getting pelters. And I was getting pelters for defending him. So good shot in Azaz. But then I don't know who gets in your praise and place.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I didn't actually watch the whole game against Cardiff. I watched about 20-25 minutes of it before I went to the Orange Pit Market in town. And from the viewing that I saw, Hayden Hackney and Aidan Morris in midfield were very good. It's that connection that they have. One of them will sit, one of them will get forward, and they link together so well. Like what I mentioned of Aidan Morris on the lowdown video, he's such a good link player. He's always offering himself up for playing in that space to receive the ball and then swiveling and then playing that forward pass to Hayden Hackney, and then Hackney could play it to Azaz. It's just, I want to kind of praise our midfield because I think it's been really, really good. And I am very much enjoying it. So the two of them get into my praise of place. And on Hackney as well, I think he kind of reintroduced himself for the Portsmouth game. That was a really, really top quality performance from Hayden Hackney, and he's added to that against Cardiff. So yeah, as I mentioned, we don't miss Jonny Howson at all. And if anyone thinks we do, you are lying. We do not miss Jonny Howson at all right now. Such is the quality and performance level of Hackney and of Hayden and Aidan, should I say?
Hayden and Aidan. Matt, who's in your phrase and place?
Yeah, well, we might as well call it the Matt Clark praise and place because he's in there again. We've already, alluded to him. I'd completely agree with the three in midfield as well. I think Morris and Hackney are just our two central midfielders now. I think that's it. At the start of the season, we were wondering would Morris take a bit of time to bed in? Would he start on the bench? Would he gradually work his way into the Boro team? But obviously, due to circumstance, he got given that opportunity, and he's absolutely taken it. I just find it astonishing how well he's just adapted to the English game. We were talking about Lucas Engel and the jump from the Danish league into the Championship, but I think going from the MLS, especially in midfield as well, in Boro's system, it's not easy, and he's stepped up and he's took to it really, really well. Him and Hackney seem to have got really, really good chemistry, and I think maybe Morris gets a lot more plaudits because of how well he has adapted, but I think equally maybe it's because we already expect a high standard from Hayden Hackney, but he is delivering on that high standard as well this season. I think he's been absolutely fantastic, and Finn Azaz does as well. I mean, like you, Jonny, I dared to defend Finn Azaz, and I'm still dumbfounded by the criticism he gets. I know he doesn't get everything right, but he's a creative player. He's not going to get everything right. He's going to make things happen, and it's not always going to come off. But people focus on that way too much. They need to focus on what he is trying to do, and when he does things right, he is so effective, and everything good we do comes through Finn Azaz. I mean, he's just such an important part of this team. So, yeah, them three with Matt Clark, I think, definitely need to be in there for me. But you could praise Aidan, you could obviously give Borges praise as well. So yeah, there were a lot of good, solid performances yesterday. But I think them three were, and Matt Clark were the standouts.
Yeah, we need to remember that Finn Azaz is not Morgan Rogers. Because when people said that he was going to be the replacement, he is, but he's a different type of replacement because he does different things and does different things very well. But let's move on and chat about the start of the season, and then we'll go on and chat about the summer transfer window and in total as well. So we've had 3 wins in all competitions, 2 defeats, 1 draw. We're currently 7th in the Championship table with 7 points. Dana, how would you sum up the start of the season so far?
It's been all right in terms of where we are on the table, and I will also add that we are above Coventry, so we have been released from the shackles for now of being wedded to Coventry City Football Club. But there are still key themes that we were seeing last season that we've seen this season. I know that we had a really good win yesterday against Cardiff, but I'm not confident, that's not the word, trusting probably of Boro to continue that post-international break, because I just feel like it would probably take time to eradicate these errors. The poor conversion rate, the lack of composure defensively. We put the goals away. We saw that last season. It's nothing new. That's frustrating. But we're not playing catch up, and that is very, very, very important. We're 7th at the moment. I know people will say don't look at the league table until it's fully taken its form. But what I'm trying to say is that we are not rock bottom. We're not in the bottom 3, desperately wondering where our first win's coming from. So that's good. That's an improvement on last season, and I can't underplay that. So it's been all right. Still things to improve upon, but I am appreciative of the fact that we are in the mix and not desperately trying to manifest points to get back up the table.
Just from what you were saying there, Dee, around the defensive side of things, we've still had those comical errors from the previous season still coming back into Boro's play. But do you think we've actually improved defensively at all?
I don't know. I'd like to hear what you think about it, because I'm thinking about it, and we've still had those errors. Jones back pass against Derby, the kind of, I don't want to swear, I'll get told off as swearing, but the mess that was against Portsmouth, we should not have conceded in both of those games, and that's part of Boro's defensive output at the end of the day. But I'm looking at the data, and currently we're ranked 5th best for or 5th lowest for XG conceded with 3.1. We've conceded 3 goals though, so we're kind of on cue for what we should be. But then should we be? That's the thing. Like, you look at the data and it'll say that Boro are right on track with their expected defensive output. But then, yeah, we've conceded goals that we shouldn't have done. So I don't know. I'm kind of reluctant to land on something, because I can sit here and say that, yeah, Boro they've given little away, but actually we've gifted teams goals, and that was the exact same last season. So whenever I feel like we are improving defensively, we go and do something really stupid. So yeah, I'm a little bit reluctant to kind of generalize there, but you would like to hope that we would erase those from our game, and then when we do, maybe I can say definitively that we have improved. But whilst we're still gifting opposition goals and being rather charitable, I honestly can't say that we have 100%.
Yeah, my opinion is that we've definitely improved as a unit. We don't give much away in terms of defending our own box. An interesting shift of what I've seen in Boro from last season is Boro's press. I think we're a much more aggressive team now than what we were, and that's shown in like the PDA numbers. So that's like press for defensive action. So basically, how many passes you give a team before you win the ball back from them. We've went from about 14 passes to 10. So you've definitely seen that shift in terms of how Boro are trying to press. And I think that comes from Aidan Morris and Hayden Hackney pressing more as a unit. I think Boro are getting better at that, knowing when and not to press as a team. I think we're good at that. It is just that individual error. And how does a manager get rid of those errors? Because you can't stop Seny Dieng running out of his box and bumping into Matt Clark, and then someone like making like a judgment in that moment. Matt Clark can't always defend that, and his coaching team I'll do that. So we need to iron out the mistakes. But I think the overall defensive unit, rarely I see us get cut open massively. Stoke, I think we got caught out a few times in terms of like the ball over the top for one of the goals. I think it was Kumas's goal. We had a couple of bad errors getting caught in transition. So that was the first time I've probably seen it in a while. But for the majority of it, I think we're relatively sound-ish. We're better than what we were. We still need to improve, I would say. But I would say the big shift for us being outpressed this season so far. But in terms of like Boro on the other end, we were known as the free-flowing goal-scoring Reds. And, we've started to score from set pieces, Matt. And everyone, well, me and Dana, I'm going to say we were pioneers and innovators in this space, because we said it was going to happen a year ago, and now it's actually happening. So, yeah, that's us. Another win for us. But how important is it Boro still find different ways to score goals, especially as we're seeing more teams now try and play that low block, make things difficult for Boro, and we're sometimes struggling to break the press at times.
It's really important. I think we mentioned this a few times last season when we were struggling. Well, when we were struggling to break teams down, and also we were really bad at set pieces. I mean, it was a non-event at times. As soon as you'd see Boro get a corner, you may as well have gone down the concourse and grabbed yourself a drink or something, because you just knew it was going to either be floated perfectly, like you did at the Boro game, Jonny, perfectly into the goalkeeper's arms, which you predicted bang on in that occasion. I'll give you that. But it is really important. It's really important that them one-off set pieces could be the difference. I mean, it got Boro going yesterday. You mentioned it. It was a really important time in the game when Cardiff were on top. It gave us control, and we sort of moved from there. So it's a really maybe underappreciated weapon in a team's armory in the modern game, especially set pieces. And if we can start scoring a few more, we're not going to score everyone. We're probably not going to score that many, but it could make a difference in a game like yesterday. So I think, when we are struggling against the side, it could be really important. I still think we need to improve in some areas. I still have no faith from free kicks from wide areas that we're going to get anything from them, but we've seen improvements from corners, and I think Carrick alluded to Grant Ledbetter and the work he's doing on the coaching side of things with that. So if it gives us an extra 5 to 10 goals this season, it could make a difference with the points, and we might see more results like yesterday.
Yeah, and I thought we really enjoyed that moment from Dan Ballas's corner, didn't we? We were saying when we were just saying with his hands up in the air, we're like, "Oh, it's go! This is where it's going," and it just went straight in. We really enjoyed that. To be fair, me and you, didn't we? We had a right little good giggle for about a good 5 minutes. But to kind of round off this start of the season, I think it's probably worthwhile calling out one player in specifically. And it's Aidan Morris, and he's someone who I have just been really impressed with over the last few weeks. And I had a look at his heat map on my scout, and he's absolutely everywhere for Boro so far. And for me, I just think he's been a fantastic bit of business for £3 million or $4 million, however you want to say it. But for me, for someone who is really good in the press, he's strong, very, very strong at picking up that loose pass from teams where they're trying to play through the thirds, and he's just able to block it out and get Boro on the transition. One big highlight from that was the Leeds game where he nicks it and then he plays it to Dan Ballasser gets the pass away to Coburn, and Coburn plays Bergzorg through, and I think that's such an iconic goal. But his performance yesterday was fantastic. Won most of his duels. He's won 72% of his duels so far this season, which is above Boro's average and higher than the league average as well at the moment. Not in the top percentile, but overall really strong. He helps dictate Boro's play in terms of Boro playing out from the back. His connection with Aidan Hackney's been excellent so far. You know, that ability to play the 1-2. He's comfortable on the ball. He gets in good areas, and he's able to find Finazaz when he gets in that position as well. And I thought his quote yesterday around him and Aidan Hackney was really nice in terms of we want to get better together. And I think that is such a beautiful thing in football, because if you're working together, and also you're getting a better partnership. This is a partnership which is our future in terms of the Boro's midfield. I appreciate Jonny Howson's been a fantastic servant, but if you want the future and you want the right now, I think Aidan Morris is that guy for Boro at the moment in time. If there is any downside to Aidan Morris, I just think sometimes he can be a little bit too eager and knowing when to press and when not to press, but he's adjusting to the league. It's a split-second reaction. That reaction will get better and better as the more games he plays. But overall, I just want to give a shout out to Chris Jones, our head of recruitment in this team, just for identifying Morris over like the last year or two and bringing up the football club, because I think he's been an absolutely sensational signing so far. Long may it continue, but overall, brilliant. 5 out of 5 for me so far. Guys, I don't know if you have anything to add about it, but for me, I think he's been fantastic so far.
I love watching him. I really do. He's a harrier, a terrier in midfield, and his performances are so good to watch. I thought that he would be a good signing for us, but I wasn't expecting him to be so good so early. But he's just fit into that midfield like a glove, to be honest. He looks really, really good alongside Aidan Hackney. I think the two complement each other really well. And it's just his link player. As I said earlier, he's always in the right position to offer up a ball to progress the play up the pitch. He's always freeing himself from a man so that he could take the ball, and he's very forward thinking with it. He's one of the players that I think actually have good decision making for Boro. He always seems to pick the right pass, the right weight of ball, the right decision, which is something that's plagued Boro so far at the beginning of this. But I have had no complaints about Aidan Morris at all. I think he is a top quality player, and I'm glad that we've got him, because he's the exact type of midfield profile that I think we've needed. Somebody to add a little bit of bite and aggression into our midfield, energy, and also good output as well when he has the ball, when he has possession, using it well, using it wisely. Yeah, brilliant. He's been absolutely the standout signing for Boro so far this season, and I am really enjoying his performances.
Yeah, and I can't say much more on that, to be fair. Like, his performance yesterday was excellent, and you could have comfortably given man of the match any other day. I thought Finazaz Oloy was fantastic. Aidan Morris, I think, has just been consistently good since he's came in. And, you know, I think the more he plays, the better he's going to get. But I think he's going to have to adapt to the relentless nature of the Championship, because there was a lot of games. And this is why we have a squad. He's going to probably be rotated in and out. But I think overall, fantastic bit of business for Boro. And to be fair, When we talk about Boro's summer transfer window, we've got Luke Ayling, Delano Bergzorg, Aidan Morris, Hartley Hunt, Micah Hamilton, Tommy Conway, Neto Borges, Ben Doak and George Edmondson, or Goodmanson, Matt, just inside joke.
No.
And we have got rid of a few players, but not really the key assets that we thought we were going to get rid of. But guys, how do you feel about Boro's business this summer?
I'm really happy with it. I think Dana's going to allude to it about key assets, but I think for me that was just as if not more important for me, because a lot of Championship playoff rivals who we might consider teams we're going to be competing with have lost key assets. Hull were ransacked, but a lot of them were on loan. Norwich have lost a couple of their key assets as well. You could run through a number of sides. I think Boro are one of the few that have kept all of them, and we've kept the spine of our team, and that continuity I think is really important. Carrying on the team that finished last season so strongly, they're only going to get better as a team. They're only going to build their chemistry, and then we've added to that, I think, really well. We've not had to bring in a number of marquee signings. I think we've just had to refine the squad in the areas where it needed. I think we've mentioned Aidan Morris is a key part of that. We've been speaking about that midfield and replacing Jonny Howson, and he slotted into that perfectly. I think Tommy Conway as well could prove to be a very, very good signing up front. Bringing in back in Luke Ayling was a no-brainer. And a lot of the other players, I think, will just help with the depth that we maybe lacked as well, and will definitely play their part when the fixtures start piling up, and no doubt with Boro injuries as well. So, yeah, I'm not going to say it's perfect, because I think the transfer window could always be better and we could always improve. But I can't have any arguments. You know, a lot of the players we've brought in, we seem to have scouted for a long time. From what we gather, a lot of them were our number one targets, and we've beat a lot of fellow Championship clubs to a lot of these players. We've beat a lot of competition, which I think is a huge vote of confidence for Michael Carrick as a coach, his reputation at improving players, and just what Boro are doing as a team in the direction we're going in right now. So I'm really, really happy with it. I think it's been one of the best windows for a very long time. I'm going to say that. I'm confident in saying that.
I think the absolute most important thing is exactly what you mentioned at the start there, Matt. It's retaining key players. It's keeping hold of key assets like Rav van den Berg, Hayden Hackney, Rani McGree, Emmanuel Latte-Lath. We'll get on to him in a minute. But I think it just gives Boro the perfect platform in which to build upon their squad. And we do have that squad depth. I think the quality of it is kind of to be determined, in my opinion, which is why I'm not going to get too excited about the incomings that we've made. I think I was massively burnt by that last season, particularly with Sammy Silvera, who just didn't really hit the heights that I was expecting from him. But we've brought in potential, and this seems to be Boro's direction in the transfer market now. We're bringing in players with potential, and I think sometimes that potential can't, like, it just doesn't materialize. But I think we're really hoping, we're banking big on it actually materialising this time. And if it does, very exciting, because Micah Hamilton will be an exciting player. I think Ben Doak, from what we've heard, will be an exciting player, kind of bums off seats kind of asset there. I know he's only on loan, but still for this season, hopefully we can see a good amount from him. The area in which I think we've massively improved upon is midfield, particularly for one player that we've already mentioned, Aidan Morris. Him bringing in everything that we've missed in midfield over the years is really, really important. And, you know, elsewhere, we've got massive defensive issues, haven't we? With Lenihan out, Fry out as well. But we've got the versatility. And I think that's one thing that you know from Michael Carrick's recruitment, or the recruitment under Michael Carrick, is that we are wanting players with versatility. That's why you see Luke Ayling play in the middle, Rav van den Berg play right back. You've got players that can fit around different positions up front as well, with, you know, Riley McGree playing in that really kind of, it's his role now, isn't it? The McGree role, that left wing position, but also roaming in. He could probably play in the middle as well. You know, we've got a lot of versatility there, and I think that's really important. So the squad's looking good, and also we got a decent amount of signings through the door pretty early doors as well. So that is very good. And hopefully this is the squad that's good enough to get us through the season. But I just have some reservations about the depth of our quality, which might be a controversial point, but it's just that potential doesn't always come to the fore. And yeah, Doak might not kind of come to the fore. Hamilton might not come to the fore. Bergzorg, I think, can be hit and miss. But what I will say is if we do see these players perform well, then we've got very good quality in the first starting 11 and in the second starting 11 as well. So decent window, and hopefully with time we can look back on this and it will be a very, very good window for Boro.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned, but like the extensions of Carrick and key players as well that are wanting to stay for the club for a longer period of time. Pretty sure contracts don't really mean anything anymore in football. As you can see, where people are getting 7-year contracts and getting bought for 20 million in League One. So I mean, it's a wild, wild game now. But you know, people are trying to say that we want to stay for the club for longer. We're getting players on good contracts, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it can come to fruition. And you know, you're saying that it's more of like a potential thing, but also you've seen time and time again players who are established come to the club and not settle at all. So we are gambling. Any player you sign is a gamble, but fingers crossed this works out for us this year. But there has been a couple of players that have left, of course. I think probably two notably, I would say, Josh Coburn and Sammy Silvera. Do you think development-wise, do you think they're the right step in their careers, Matt, in terms of this is the right place right now for them? And do you think we'll ever see them back in Boro shirts at all?
I think firstly it is the right step for both of them. I think Silvera definitely needed to go out to a team like Portsmouth with a really good coach in John Mousinho. I think we're going to get lots of game time. That will be the making or breaking of Sammy Silvera. If he does well there, then he can prove that he is good enough for this level. If he doesn't, then it'll prove to Boro he probably isn't. Josh Coburn, I think, is a little bit further forward in the sense that he probably is a decent championship player already, but it's a case of he didn't fit Boro's system. I don't think he fitted our style of play. He wasn't the profile Carrick wanted, and no disrespect to Millwall, but I think he fits their style of play a lot more, a bit more direct. He's more of that, big, tall number 9 that I think they'll utilise a lot better than what we did. So I think both of the loans or the clubs they've gone to are fine. In terms of will they be back, it depends on how they do at their respective loans, but also depends on where Boro are at as well. Because if we do succeed this season, we do go up a level, whether it is we get promoted or we establish ourselves as a top 4, top 5 team and then kick on again to maybe go one step further next season, can you really realistically say Coburn and Silvera would be good enough to come back into a side that's got bigger aspirations, is looking to step on and be even better? Maybe not. So yeah, it depends on 2 factors, how they do and where we are in 12 months' time, because the hope is we might not even be in this league in 12 months' time, or if not, we'll have gotten mighty close and we'll be hoping to definitely get out of it the next season. So yeah, depends on where we are as well.
Yeah, I think just to touch on Coburn as well, I watched his goal yesterday for Millwall. Got a standing ovation as well from Millwall fans, and his movement was really good. He got onto the blind side of the defender, anticipated the ball going in, and slid on to score in his debut. So congratulations to Josh. I think the move would be a fantastic move for him. I think he just fits Millwall. I think he fits Neil Harris's style. I think he'll do really well there. And we'll get the question mark of why the Boro sent him out on loan in the first place. But I think from what we've seen under Josh, I just think it's just maybe not the right time or right place for him. But he'll still hopefully do well in the Championship and have a great career. But I think we will maybe see him back next year. But if he does really well at Millwall, I wouldn't be shocked if they went for him again in the summer. But another striker that could have left us on deadline day is Manuel Laugh. The reported fee from Ipswich was £20 million, which Boro rejected, of course, but he didn't initially travel to Cardiff. And Michael Carrick said it was more so around putting him in the right frame of mind. Carrick said that Laugh didn't want to leave. However, he was questioning the decision from the club, and it was all amicable, and it was also professional, and also he set his desire to stay at the club as well after the transfer window too. So I just want to get everyone's thoughts on the situation, to be honest, because it kind of came out of nowhere, and we were like, okay, maybe he's probably gonna go, I guess. So I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
It was just very strange how it went from Ipswich are interested in Emmanuel Latte-Lath to Emmanuel Latte-Lath has not travelled with the squad to Cardiff. It went from one extreme, well, it went from 0 to 100, really. It was a saga, wasn't it? It's a little bit embarrassing, I think, mostly because it didn't really feel like, and I know you mentioned there the £20 million bid, but it still didn't feel like he was really their top target. It felt like Imando Broja was. And so, yeah, to not be in the right frame of mind. I mean, I get it from the point of view of like, this is a big potential move for him to basically fast track his own gateway into the Premier League. But yeah, just kind of falling back onto that, it just didn't seem like Ipswich were fully that arsed. So it was maybe a little bit of a storm in a teacup. I mean, I'm glad that he travelled in the end. I'm glad that what's come out is that he's 100% committed. I take that with a massive pinch of salt. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I do. I think we'll see that with actions rather than words, because I do have a feeling that this will probably happen again. Like Emmanuel Latte-Lath has a foghorn of an agent that will probably do his thing, and then we'll be back here again. But I will say that Carrick was really good in how he dealt with this post-match yesterday. I'll say that he said, the thing I would stress is that all the way through, Manu has been nothing but respectful and positive. He's worked with us on great terms and understood the situation. So there is nothing negative at all on Manu. He also goes on to say it was amazing from him to deal with it, accept it and be positive. He really does love the place. You can see that in how positive he is around the place, and also in the way he came on and gave absolutely everything, which is something I can't dispute. He does always give everything, or at least it comes across as if he does. Latte-Lath. I'm delighted, and it's a long answer, but hopefully that paints the picture of how we feel about Manu and how we've dealt with the whole thing. There's not one bit of worry for me now with him. So it seems like it was resolved, which is good. I mean, it was resolved because that's why he travelled in the end. But just, yeah, it wasn't really needed from Boro. I think it was something that Boro could have really done without on the eve of a game and on deadline day with, what was it, 7 hours left of it. It was just, yeah, a saga.
Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, yeah?
I was going to say, this is what happens when you've got a transfer deadline day that's like a couple of weeks into the season. I mean, it can just be so disruptive. I did have an inkling out of the three big assets, if you look at Hackney, Lath and Latte-Lath, that he would probably have been the one with him being a striker, and how teams panic towards the end of the window and put crazy bids in for strikers. I did worry he'd be the one we'd get tested on. I can't say I was ever that worried. I mean, when he didn't travel, there was a few alarm bells ringing, but as you say, I just wasn't convinced by Ipswich's interest in him. And as soon as he decided to travel, I mean, fair play. You know, if there was a real issue there, he would have probably stayed at home, but he wanted to be with the team. So I'm not going to dispute anything Carrick said. I know there was a lot made of it on social media, and we know what Boro fans are like. Some probably will take a long time to forgive him. Some are happy to just brush it under the carpet. We know how fickle football fans are, but you know, at the end of the day, he's still here. Let's back him while he's still here. A little bit like what we were saying about the hangover. I hope there isn't a hangover from this. I hope he is able to just crack on and he can just, you know, get back on the horse sort of thing and kick on as he did. I wouldn't be surprised if things don't go well at Ipswich. We're here again in January. That's one worry I do have. But hopefully Boro can be a little bit more prepared. But our stance was clear. You know, we weren't going to sell him if they didn't hit his valuation, and we weren't going to sell him if it was too late in the window. So fair play to us for doing what we've done consistently throughout the window. We've been incredibly strong in our stance with our best players, and we've not been pushed around by big clubs with big money. So fair play to the club on that. I just hope he can get his head down and kick on, and maybe he uses this as motivation to keep doing what he's doing, and that's knocking in the goals and being Boro's number 9, and it doesn't disrupt his performances between now and January or whenever this might happen again.
5 goals between now and then.
That's the worry.
Nailed on.
That's the worry. Yeah.
I'm gonna add on my point when I mentioned it was embarrassing. I probably watered that down a little bit. It was cringeworthy, I think, because it was a bit naive and overly ambitious from Latte-Lath if he was expecting Boro to accept a bid with pretty much minimal time to find a replacement for you, when they have basically given you the signals that you are an integral part of this team and that you are not to be sold. And credit to Boro and Steve Gibson for that especially. So it just felt overly ambitious for him to hope for that move. So yeah, in the end, if he was pining for it in any way, then a little bit cringeworthy, mate. Like, ugh. Oh, it's one of those kind of nails down a chalkboard. Like, yeah, you weren't gonna ever get that move. And I know that it's an ambition, and to be honest, if it isn't an ambition for Lad to play in the Premier League, then why is he a footballer, kind of thing. So I don't blame him for that. But yeah, it's just how circumstantially it never made sense for that move to happen, because simply put, you cannot expect Boro to find a replacement for you in the 7 or 8, however many hours it was, until the deadline. Like, strikers, trying to find them that are decent, available, and relatively, like, they don't cost an arm and a leg, is so difficult. And to expect Boro to find that within like that remaining time is just very naive, I think. But yeah, we'll see how he goes from now until January. But I've got my eye on you, Laugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's his agent. The agent is desperate for him to get moved. It happened in the summer, wasn't it? Where they asked about his future already, even though he's been at the club for less than a year. I mean, the second part of it as well, around going to Ipswich for £20 million. And you know what? If there was 20 million on the table, he doesn't want to be here. You kind of go, all right, then, fair enough. But if the desire is to be here, you're happy, then you can kind of get away with keeping him around, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that he'll score a few more goals in the winter, and we maybe have to reassess it in January. Fingers crossed that we can keep him for another year, and then if we have to sell him for 25 million, then we sell him for 25 million in the summer next year. But what great bit of business, though. Again, we bring him in for €5 million, sell him for £25 million. Not bad, Boro, is it? Not bad at all. I mean, pulled the stat yesterday around Boro's net spend over the last 11 seasons. And we're profitable for the most part. So, I mean, we're doing all right sometimes. We're doing all right in the recruitment. But, guys, thank you very much for joining me, as always. To listeners and the viewers, don't forget to give this podcast a 5-star rating. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to it as well, because 40% of you that watch Boro Breakdown on YouTube actually aren't subscribed. So, hey, get subscribing. But for right now, the first phase of the championship is done. Matt Clark is our top scorer, and Boro are getting it in the mixer. This has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.